To me, climate change is definitely something that needs to be talked about.
We're going to focus on the bottom line. If we can pollute the environment and pay a fine to the EPA, the fines are not outweighing the cost of just throwing the stuff out there.
It starts with you just literally doing simple tasks that will, spread into the people around.
In terms of the candidates addressing it, you don't see it at all.
We're wasting our money on other things until it's addressed.
Hi there, I'm Vince Lattanzio.
And I'm David Chang, and we're the Battleground brothers. We're here at Widener University in Chester, Pennsylvania. We're talking to students about climate change.
An overwhelming number of scientists point to human activities as a cause for the change in climate.
Carbon emissions have reached new extremes, and that's linked to rising global temperatures, causing an increase in severe weather, coastline erosion, and more. We know that it's a major issue for a majority of millennials. They're concerned about what climate change will mean for the planet's future.
But how will that influence their vote during this election season? Well, let's go ahead and find out.
My mom lost her car to Sandy. A lot of my friends lost their houses.
KANE DALY grew up along the Jersey Shore, and the changing environment there influenced his decision to study environmental law.
I also was raised in a place that's really dependent on the climate, and especially when we see more and more intense storms, when the sea level rises or the temperatures of the ocean rise, then it's important to remember that that has huge ramifications for both industries that run Cape May County, which is tourism and fishing. Those are two really important things that we need to keep in mind when we vote.
What about people who don't live by the shore, who don't really see violent weather? Why should they be concerned about climate change?
It can affect agriculture on a large scale. It's really dependent on moisture and the stability of the climate, especially, for example, in the Midwest. If we ignore it, then we're no longer going to be the breadbasket. We're wasting our money on other things until it's addressed.
Ryan Raker is an MBA student. He's concerned about the climate, but says regulations offer businesses an out to complying with environmental law.
I think a lot of the time you have to remove your feelings from these things. Whether you're a business person or you're a protester. They go to a business owner, are you sure you feel okay about polluting the environment? Well, they don't have a fiduciary duty to the environment. They should.
Right.
But they do have a fiduciary duty to their investors, to their stakeholders, their shareholders. We're going to focus on the bottom line. If we can pollute the environment and pay a fine to the EPA, the fines are not outweighing the cost of just throwing the stuff out there. Right. I definitely think Hillary Clinton is looking for more investment in the climate change aspect, looking at ways to clean the environment. Maybe that's perhaps the more liberal aspect to look at. Where Donald Trump's looking at, well, what's good for business? How's it going to affect the climate? And finding that equal ground that we talked about. I definitely want to see people who are going to invest in infrastructure that's going to be positive for our climate change, and it's going to help us in our future. But definitely, like today, I couldn't say that I'm voting for either or candidate.
Why are you undecided at this point?
Why am I undecided? I don't think either candidate has reached out to my population and really said, this is what I'm going to do for you.
How much of a concern is climate change for you right now? And what have you seen from both candidates really addressing that concern?
To me, climate change is definitely something that needs to be talked about. In terms of, ranking it against job security, national security, the economy, I don't think it's necessarily as high because it is something you have a little bit of time to address. But in terms of the candidates addressing it, you don't see it at all.
Looking at where the candidates stand, Clinton wants to carry out the Paris Agreement, a pledge to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 30% by 2025. Make a major investment in solar energy as part of a goal to have enough renewable energy generated to power every American home. Make homes and businesses more energy efficient and cleaner. Cut American oil used by a third.
Trump wants to boost mining and fossil fuel production, does support solar and wind, once described climate change as a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese government to hurt U.S. manufacturing, and has called for the abolishment of the Environmental Protection Agency, an agency that has a higher approval rating amongst Pennsylvania millennial voters than the Queen Bee herself, Beyonce.
At this point, have you chosen a candidate, or are you undecided at this point?
I think I'm undecided, but we have one that kind of paints it as a Chinese hoax, and another that apparently wants to build on the progress. We'll see how honest those intentions are.
There's big money behind getting young voters to side with Clinton. Next Gen Climate, a political action committee with a $100 million war chest, has teams on 90 college campuses across Pennsylvania. They've helped register 80,000 millennials to vote while discussing concerns about climate change.
So you did some polling and you found that 9 out of 10 millennials support the transition from fossil fuels to clean energy by 2050.
Absolutely.
And was that surprising?
Young people know the science. They understand the science. They agree with 97% of scientists out there. They understand that issue. It's now taking the next step and acting on it, and that is voting this year for people that support us on this issue.
It's a huge concern for you. Have you seen that from your peers, though, other students, some of your friends?
For people my age, we live more so in the here and now. And right now, today, I'm doing fine. You know, I don't have to worry about anything with the environment. I don't have to worry about flood levels, about rising heat, temperatures and everything like that. So why should I be concerned about it? So you don't see it from people because we're a very minute-by-minute society a lot.
For Diamond Whipper Young, a student at Temple University and Next Gen volunteer, it's helping her peers understand that small actions make big waves and can jumpstart conversations.
You can't go and necessarily build a power plant to help reduce your carbon emissions, but do you feel like you can tackle it and your peers can?
Yeah, I think the first thing is being aware and knowledgeable on the subject. A lot of people, they want to help or they kind of know about it, but they don't actually know details about it. But even when people talk about icebergs, it's like, you're not gonna go to, the North Pole and save the iceberg, but you can pick up the piece of trash that's right in front of you. I feel like people forget that step. Like, it starts with you just literally doing simple tasks that will, spread into the people around you. Like, the more you do something, the more you preach, then the more it will become.
So what do we learn? A majority of college students believe that climate change is happening and that something needs to be done about it. But when weighed against other issues like the economy, it drops on the list of importance, especially since the effects of climate change are not always apparent.
Next time, we're discussing gun control on the campus of Kutztown University in Berks County. For NBC10.com, I'm Vince Lattanzio.
And I'm David Chang.